big news that you want to know is it's happening. There's going to be a film. There's going to be a film, The Lady in the Bay Window, a feature film, and it's all signed and sealed and ready to go. Now, I've got waiting in a green room with me, the two Watts brothers, Toby and Fionn. So what I would like to do is bring them onto the stage, let them introduce themselves to you guys, and you can ask away any questions you want to me, to them. I've got a couple of questions I want to ask as well because it's exciting. But if you do want to stay for the trailer at the end, please stay on for the trailer at the end as well, because the trailer will be coming right at the end of the show after we've got all your questions. But we're trying to answer as many as we can for you. I'll just welcome the Watts brothers. Hello, gentlemen.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, good to see everyone.
How are we?
Yeah, really excited, doing well.
Yeah, good.
Very well, thank you. Yeah.
Did you see me nearly break down at the beginning of that live?
Yeah. We'll let you off.
It's every time I talk about my mum when I'm doing anything like that. I need to probably not do that in public. Yeah, it does. The whole thing means so much to me, and you guys coming on board to work with me on this and take this to the next level as well. It's just amazing. So, tell everybody how we met. Like, where did it happen? Where did the conversation start?
So I think that it was all over Facebook, and I think I kept seeing it, and it was interesting, and I could see it was growing, and more people were following it, and it was very intriguing. And I remember thinking, wow, this is something to really pay attention to, and I should definitely read the books. And some time went by, and I hadn't thought about it in a while. And a friend of mine, Anita, who I think is on the chat tonight, she said to me in the pub, as we worked together on another horror movie, and she did some of the music, she said, you really ought to get in touch with William about The Lady in the Bay Window. And that was the moment I thought, yeah, I really do need to get in touch. And so we got the books. And then after that, we were messaging you, and you invited us to one of the shows, which was really exciting, gave us free tickets. Yeah. And we thought,
did you enjoy the show? Did you enjoy the show, guys?
It was great fun.
It was great.
I love the show.
The cast are amazing, aren't they? The cast are really good fun, and
brilliant.
They were really warm, and it was lovely to talk to them afterwards. And it was just great the way it had all been put together.
Good.
And those scenes of people queuing in the street to get in, it was just amazing,
Oh, crazy. Absolutely crazy.
That was a really cool thing, was just sensing the atmosphere at the show of everybody in the room and the kind of questions people were asking. It felt like this wasn't just an anonymous audience of individuals, but it was like we were walking into a family, if you know what I mean. Yeah. There was a sense of camaraderie and a feeling of people are all in this together. There's a curiosity about the subject matter and this particular story that we felt, it's really infectious. It's like you just want to keep digging deeper and kind of know what's really going on.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, there were a few people. I'm just looking at the chat now because it's my first time looking at the chat since we've gone live, and there were a few people that were guessing at what it was going to be that were correct. So well done, Lucy, for guessing that right. But I suppose, we spoke about this, and you guys have been around a while. You've done a few bits and bobs, and you're really excited to come on board with this and work with this, and said it could be potentially the biggest thing you've done yet. And you want to make a real big show and tell about this film. Now, how do you even go about writing the screenplay off the back of the book, and how do you go about casting this sort of thing? Where does that go from here?
Well, I think the first thing is always the script. The script is so important before you start doing anything on a film, really. And obviously what's great about this project is you've got the book. It's all written down, all the events. If you didn't have the book, what we'd be doing is interviewing you and trying to pull out all these different scenes and events and work out the timeline, who the characters are and all this. But so much of it's worked out in the book. So we'll be spending a lot of time diving into the book and just using our instinct really to pull out what's interesting, what feels right for the genre of movie we want to make, who are the interesting characters. And also we'll be trying to read between the lines in the book, things you might not have said, to draw out internal motivations that different characters might have, and to introduce as much conflict as possible. And of course, working out one of the tricky things with adaptations is how to compress the timeline down into a window of time that works well on screen. Because often in novels or books, you can span a long period of time, 20 years or so is totally fine and normal. But in a film, a few days to a week, couple of weeks is actually more, I think, what audiences can understand. Otherwise, you have to start aging characters, casting new people, and you lose that emotional intensity of the roller coaster ride. So we'll be spending time with the book and working out all these events, structuring them into a screenplay. It'll be 80 or 90 pages of material, all formatted in a very specific way. And it's from that point, that's like your Bible then for moving forward, where you can take that to a casting director who's somebody in the industry who knows all the actors who are out there, who's working, who might be right, and they'll start inputting with you on who might be good to cast in the different roles.
Okay, fantastic. Have you got your eyes on anybody as yet? I know we discussed you want a really good lead man, but he's got to be a lot younger than me because I'm 40 now, and this all started when I was 19. So it can't be Sean Bean, basically.
That's right. It's one of the things. Really, we'll be talking to a casting director who will then break down, the script and and look at who's available, who's up and coming, who's kind of hot right now, who's got the kind of kudos around them, and who's a kind of name. And we'll work within the budget, that we're working on. And so we will need to do that work with them, and then obviously check out with our distributors, whoever's going to be involved in that, an exec producer we've got lined up to work with us called Louis Lavella at a horror platform called Found TV, and make sure that name that we have adds the value to the film that we need in order to hopefully open the doors to the cinemas. And that's really what we'd love to do with this movie, is have it go into the cinemas and really get out there, certainly in the UK and hopefully in the US. And I think that's one of the exciting things, is just we know this is something that could just grow and grow. And it's just such an intriguing story to have something that's so strange and the paranormal, and it feels like the Sheffield and Enfield Poltergeist story. It's just it doesn't come along much, this kind of a thing. So this is what makes it exciting to bring it to the screen. And of course, the casting, the key aspects to this is making sure the script's really tight. That's the blueprint for the film, and the casting is right. And once you've got those two things together, as long as people turn up and the camera's on, you're in good shape. So there'll be a lot of talking back and forth about who's going to play you at something like age 20 or something like that. we were kind of laughing and saying people like maybe we were joking before we came on, like Thomas Turgoose would have been fun, but I imagine he's kind of growing up a bit more now and things.
He's a little bit older now. Yeah, he is a little bit older. How many people do you normally have to cast for something like this? Because you look at my book, there's a lot of characters in there. It's like it was like a revolving door in my 20s, the front door to this house, of people in and out of the house. So how many people do you normally have to cast for something like this? How many people are involved with the production, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. Well, again, it comes back to the script a bit, that what we'll be doing is whittling down the characters in the book into a manageable number, because over about 90 minutes screen time, the danger is if you're so faithful to the book and you have 20 different speaking roles, eventually the audience watching it is going, I don't know whose name that is and who are they and what are they about and stuff. So what you tend to do with screenwriting is you merge characters and you say, well, these are three smaller ones, but do you know what? We could have those events that happen to them happen to one person and invent a new name, and they potentially take on a more significant role then, but it's a manageable amount of speaking roles for an audience to comprehend. So that's one of the jobs we'll be doing. On average, you might have, a lead role, one or two supporting roles, and then some kind of smaller bit parts around it. Maybe a cast of between about 6 and 8 people would be quite normal for a film, produced on an independent level. Obviously, if you were doing some huge Hollywood blockbuster thriller or something, you might have a lot more speaking roles and interweaving storylines and lots more locations. But because this is quite contained, very contained around one house, you're probably looking at 6 to 8 characters. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. I'm trying to work through all the questions and comments, and there's some amazing comments from everybody saying it's super exciting, incredible news. There's lots of people from the paranormal community in here. I think I've just seen Beardo's in here. Beardo Gets Scared, and Justin the Paranormal Monkey. haven't seen you yet. This is the first time I've used StreamYard, by the way. So I'm trying to work through these comments, learning on the job. So let me have a look and see if I can find any questions on here. Is there anything else you guys want to talk us through the process side of things that you've got on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think that really a lot of the work at this stage is on the script and also packaging up the film for financing. And, it's getting the legals in order. We've got a nice looking pitch deck, and we need a good script. We need the cast attachments. And then we need to work out whether the finance is going to be coming from the distributor potentially that we might have lined up, or whether we'll be going out to people privately for investment. So all of these things will come, have to come in the right order. But of course, a lot of it comes from just knowing that, you've really got the film, on the page. If it's not on the page, not on the stage. So it's building that roller coaster, and it's having something that's so exciting. It's got to be like the book where when people read it, they don't want to put it down. And we do something that's authentic to what you experienced in the house. And yes, there'll be artistic license, but we want to work closely with you to make sure that, this is really exactly how things happen, and it creates the impact that it had at the time, and really making sure that this is a film. Not only will it have, yes, it's going to have its humor, yes, it's colloquial Sheffield and that kind of life. We've said it's a little bit like a film like Dead Man's Shoes meets.
Yeah, I said I want it a bit like Dead Man's Shoes.
Activity, yeah. But it's also it also doesn't want to be, something that's too funny where you don't believe in what's happening, and so it's got to be frightening and true to what you've put in the book. So yeah, that's really where a lot of the work is going to be at this stage.
And I think that's what the guys have done with the stage show. It's very, very similar. They've written a screenplay for the theatre that works really well with the touch of comedy in there, because you would have that. I mean, when I used to be funny when I was in my early 20s. It was great, and it was fun times majority of the time. You're seeing your mates all the time. You're having a bit of a laugh, a bit of banter, and you get that. But when things happen in this house, it tends to happen when you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
So much so, I've just mentioned Justin and Beardo, two YouTubers who are very used to this sort of thing, a lot more used to doing this than me. But I've invited them round to the house, and I've said, look, when you come round, let's not do this whole thing where we're calling out for whatever spirits are in the house, that sort of thing. Let's just have a game of darts, have a beer, have a game of pool, just chill out a little bit and see if things happen, because that tends to be the way that things happen here. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how you guys interpret the whole thing and put that into play. I mean, there's a few questions in here if you want to answer a few questions from people in the chat. So we've got, feel free to ignore if you're going to cover anyway, but how far into production is the film, and is there a rough release date?
Yeah, so at the moment we're at the stage that's called development stage. And development is all about developing the story, the idea, in the form of a screenplay. And once you have that script together, you make a schedule and a budget, and you start attaching cast and getting lawyers to sign everything off, and make sure all the copyright's in place and that sort of thing. And at that point, you have what's called a package. And that's then when investors or distributors, studios come on board and say, we'll give you the money to fund the production. And so once you've got that financing in place, you can then move into pre-production, which is a phase before you start filming, which is like project management. You're planning, bringing crew together, hiring, doing logistics, booking the catering, getting art department to build sets and that kind of thing. I think someone mentioned a question here about, will it be filmed in the original house? That would be lovely if we had something like that on hand, but obviously the house has changed a lot since it was back in the day. So one of the discussions we'll be having is it worth building a completely new set inside a studio to mirror the original house design? Or actually, does it work out better for us to find as similar a house as possible and agree with the owners of the house to film there? That's how we've tended to work, to do that, to cut down on some of the cost of building sets can get quite expensive. But we'll be open to that as we go along.
Yeah, okay. And I suppose this question comes in off the back of that. There he is, Justin the Paranormal Monkey. I told you he was there. So film releases are very much reliant on gaining the right amount of finance. How far along down the path is this film in that sense?
So like I say, this film at the moment, what we have so far now is the development. We have an executive producer who's been working on our last film, Red Daruma, which is waiting to go into festivals and then on streaming platforms. And basically what we're doing is we're going to be writing the script with the development money, attaching that initial cast, and then Louis Lavella is going to go out to the distributors and see if they just want to put up the finance straight away. If that isn't the case, then we will be basically financing through private investments, through people that we might know within our own networks who financed our other films. But we plan to move fast. I mean, this is not something that we want to be spending years over. So basically, expect things to be happening quite quickly over the coming months.
Okay, exciting. And I know we discussed this, but the hidden camera side of things, you mentioned about why we'd be going down the hidden camera route. And that was all to do with what Hollywood are doing from sort of pre-COVID. There hasn't really been a decent hidden camera film since pre-COVID, has there?
Yes, they tend to come around in waves. When we talk about hidden camera or found footage, as it's known, Blair Witch Project is the big famous example from 2000, and then you've got Paranormal Activity, 8 or 9 years later. They're the big ones. It's always a very popular genre, but it'll go underground for a while, and then it resurges into the mainstream. And actually, next year is going to be a big year for found footage movies, because they're doing a new Blair Witch movie and a new Paranormal Activity movie, and there's other ones in the works. So we're going to see in the cinemas, on the mainstream level, this genre, come into the mainstream. And if anyone's not familiar with found footage, the idea is it's all filmed, by the actors. It's like someone's discovered footage. There's no crew there. It's all, video cameras. And there's different ways of doing that. It can all be done through CCTV or shot on phones, these days, different stylistic ways of doing it. And that's the subgenre we're looking at working in, because we've been working in that genre for the last couple of movies we've done and have really strong connections in that world. And there's a growing interest in that genre in Hollywood and in the wider film industry. It lends itself quite well to low budgets as well, because you're not working with massive crews dealing with huge IMAX cameras, like Christopher Nolan. You're working with small crews and small amounts of equipment, and it means you can move very fast, shoot things very fast, do lots of takes, which works quite well for a more improvised sort of film or improvised dialogue and so on.
I think also when it's done right, and I mean, there's a lot of very trash films within the found footage genre, but actually some of the smartest films are within that genre, because if you can hold people with not a lot happening, like Blair Witch did with people going out and getting lost in the woods, it really demonstrates a lot of talent, and it really captivates people, and the scares, they feel real.
Oh yeah, I remember watching the Blair Witch at my mum and dad. I was about 17 years old, and they'd gone out, and I watched it on my own. And I don't know if I got to the end of the film.
It feels like the way to go, because I remember we were thinking, we could go more down like the Insidious route, where you've got more of your fantastical sort of stuff going on, your special effects. But there's something about the book, and when we were reading it, I remember the scene where the guys, you were playing Monopoly, and suddenly something, happens, and the sofa's moving and different things. And it's almost like you would just be so into this bond between these lads and what's going on in the house. And when it happens, you're just thrown off completely. And I just think something about the world of the book and what happened lends itself to that kind of authentic kind of found footage POV horror world. And I think that's the way we want to go with this. So it's not about beautiful cinematography. It's not about going over the top with lighting. It's about like maybe footage that you say you were filming at that period, in your life. What kind of camera would you have been using? And if you were doing a video diary, what would that have looked like?
Yeah.
So so that's really the way in for us with this. And that's what excites us a lot. And of course, it excites massively the horror fans, because they're so passionate. The found footage horror fans group is growing like by tens of thousands per week. It's just insane. So we're engaged with all that world. So it makes sense kind of to go that route with it. So we're going to have a lot of fun.
Love it. Okay. And question from the blokes from Stoke. Check their footage out if you've not seen them as yet. They're all over YouTube. Who would be your dream distributor to get this out in the world? Now, don't cut any fingers off by naming somebody. That's probably a really bad idea.
I mean, there's a lot of great distributors out there, particularly people who would deal with this kind of genre, would like this kind of genre. Obviously, Liam's mentioned contacts. He's had people who've approached him in the past. They might still be active options for us to pursue, conversations to have, that kind of thing. So it's all on the table, really. And the thing is, you often don't want to sign up too early with anybody, because then you might make something that's so incredible that actually you realize you could have got a better and bigger distributor on board. So you want to keep your cards close to your chest and go in as late as possible with a trailer, a film that's all been shot, and show them what you've got. And then, hopefully you get a kind of bidding war. Sometimes happens where you've got multiple people who want your movie, and the value increases a lot, and the press get wind of that. So I wouldn't like to say too early, but you
want someone who aligns with our vision for what this film's going to be, and someone who's going to do the work and is going to really promote it, and hopefully got the connections to the cinema chains, which is what we want. We want to make a film that plays on the big screen, and you just want someone who's honest. And in film, there's always often a lot of creative accounting, and things happen, and filmmakers don't get always the best deal. But we've been through this numerous times, so we know kind of what to watch out for. And we just don't want someone who's lazy, who's just going to take the film, throw it on the streaming platforms, and it gets buried. We really want this to take off. And I like you've been doing so far with everything, that it's just growing and there's a community around it. And so we do our side, we promote it, we get on as many podcasts as we can and all the rest of it. But you've got someone also who's working within the distribution side of things, who's really pushing that. They're passionate about it. They want it to be a success. They want, millions of people to see his film. So that's what you're trying to suss out, who's the right person. And there's various things like, does somebody look you in the eye? If you have a call with them, do they appear on the screen? How do you feel at a gut level when you're talking to them? So that's part of the process,
Okay, love that. There's a good question here, to be fair, from Jamie, another one who's seen the theatre show. Hey, Jamie. In regards to finance, would you consider public funding? Also, obviously, fans of the story, the community would love to see it go on the big screen.
Yeah, I think there's great potential with this project for some sort of crowdfund. We've done crowdfunds in the past successfully. They've been great. We think often they're really good towards the later stages, once you've shot something and you can show the fans that the project's, it's in the bag. You just need that bit of extra cash to finish post-production or do marketing or whatever it is. So that's something we'll be definitely exploring down the line, because we know you've worked so hard to create such a buzzing community around it, and there's such a fan base. It would be a no-brainer to, not to open that up and let people get involved at different levels, have their name in the credits, and get merchandise and whatever else, other perks you put on the crowdfund. Public funding is an interesting one. There is something called the UK Independent Film Tax Credit, which is great, where the government actually will give you back pretty much like a third of what you spend on the movie in cash once you file your accounts for the company. So that's great. So the government does a good job of helping film productions finance themselves. But in terms of any other funds, often a lot of public funds are set up to fund more like art house niche movies that don't have a commercial aspect, films that are more concerned with some social issue or diverse representation and underrepresented people groups or communities. Understandably so, they want to fund those things that might not commercially have an appeal. Whereas a film like this is so commercial, there's so many other ways and entities that would be interested in financing this. Often these public funding streams, they don't necessarily take well to it, because they say, well, you guys can get it funded somewhere else. We're going to focus on the little niche things.
They also quite limited what they can fund, because they only have a certain amount of money from, it's often lottery funding. And they will potentially slow down the process, because we've been down this route with them before, and they'll want to sort of meddle with the script, and they might want to change it into something you don't want it to be. And I think we're very kind of hardcore indie filmmakers, where we're like, no, this is the film we want to make, and we're going to do it, in our own way, in the right way, something that's authentic to the story we want to tell. We don't want to, sell ourselves down the river and do something we don't believe in. So we're cautious of that, but at the same time, you are open to those routes as well. And for example, is there product placement deals? Is there other ways to get cash into the film? Introductions to people who have, who are influencers, who have good networks, who will promote the film. You're always looking at favors. You're looking at being resourceful with what you've got, what you can get for cheap, what you can get for free. I mean, this is the world we've come up with, you know, having done 4 feature films now. It's really stretching out. Although you might not have a lot of cash, finally what people see, they're hopefully very impressed with that and go, how did you pull that off for that? I mean, we've just done a movie, you know, that had animals in it and stunts and a house burning down and all sorts of stuff. And
you're not doing that here.
Yeah, you know, yeah, you know, we actually did that. A lot of people would think, wow, you know, that's going to look like it had millions and millions spent on it, but it didn't, and that's part of the trick, you know.
Yeah.
But of course, this is a film that's highly contained. It's a supernatural film set predominantly in one location, and that is the thing that we love. That's our first thing we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that kind of a movie, you know. Not working with animals, ideally.
Okay. I suppose this question is probably for me, and it's a pretty straight answer, but I'll give you the longer answer. No, the film will not be going to charity. The first book, I promised my late mom that the first book and the audiobook from that would all go to a charity of her choice, and every single penny of profit has done and always will do. One thing that I will guarantee you is if these guys get the teeth into this and make it a fantastic film for everybody, it will sell thousands more books, and that money will go to the charity. But no, the second book, I've spent a hell of a lot of time promoting this, doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and I've got a 3-year-old to bring up. I've got a full-time job. The second book is for me and my family. The stage shows is for me and my family, and the film will be as well. Hope that answers that. Okay. I'm not greedy. Genuinely, just I do a lot of work on this, and it's like another job, isn't it, when you're doing something like this? What about this? Roughly how long until the release? That's a tough question for you.
It's a tough question. It is. I mean, I know it's frustrating. It is a bit how long's a piece of string, but what's in our minds, you know, would be. Probably 18 months to 2 years tops. You know, it's unlikely probably to be released before then, just because of how long things take to get the film financed, made, edited, show it around, and then schedule a release date. And you know, cinemas and distributors need months and months ahead of time, so you've got to factor that in. It's not likely to be less than 18 months. But hopefully we're not, you know, sat around for any period kind of, you know, with it stuck in limbo, which can sometimes happen to films. So that's kind of what would be on our heads. There's a lot of factors.
I think that because it's such a unique project, and already having talked to people about it, that it hopefully will take off quite fast. I think one of the things, this is where hopefully we get lucky, is if we can get that name attached to it, then quite quickly it could get financed. But sometimes, you know, if people are names, you know, and they're famous, they can be booked up. So you might have to wait for that side of it. But you might get lucky where, you know, we don't need to necessarily have a long shoot, and we can get this person can come in for, you know, a couple of weeks because they've got a break in between jobs, and then things would move a lot faster. But I guess it's better to say it's going to take a longer period of time, and hopefully, you know, kind of, you know, not over commit in a certain sense and bring it faster. But I mean, I'd love to get things moving 6 to 12 months on this. That's what we'll try and do. But certainly in a 2-year period.
Sounds good. Thank you for that, Stu. Good old buddy of mine. Here you go. What cert would you be considered 15 or 18 to get more families in to see it? It's a good question.
I think, you know, from a financial side, I think that 15, you know, if it gets a certificate 15, you have got quite a chunk of people who can therefore go and see it. You know, 15 to 18-year-olds can see it then, and so it can be better financially to do that. At the same time, we don't want to start out by censoring ourselves, you know, because if we start doing that, the story might change, and we're trying to reverse engineer it, and it's not working so well. We'll tell the story as we feel it needs to be told, you know, and have integrity towards what the book says and what our vision is. And then that decision can be made further down the line in the edit, and particularly when you're showing it to distributors, they might say, look, we think this is going to really play well with the 15, 16, 17-year-olds. Let's just cut out some of the moments that will tip it over into being an 18. Or they might say, no, let's hammer the 18 certificate and publicize it because it's like, it's so frightening, it's so edgy. Let's play that and don't worry about that. So there's conversations there. Yeah,
it's quite difficult to get an 18. I mean, strangely, our our film Black Daruma got an 18, but I'm not sure entirely why that was. Maybe it could be the language, but often it has to be, for a film to get that, it has to maybe have graphic sex in it or a lot of gory violence. Now,
or drugs sometimes.
But this film doesn't. It's paranormal. It scares. I'm sure there's going to be some bad language in it and various things, but it doesn't. It's not like The Terrifier. It's not a bloodbath, and that's part of this story we don't know. William,
I don't think I'm going to need an arse double or anything like that. Then I'm all right. Good, that's fine. Okay, there's loads of well wishers on here coming through, guys. So I'm trying to get through as many comments as I can, but I'm looking for the questions in here. So if you have got a question, just put a Q before it, because it's a lot easier to pick them out on there. Let's bring this one up it's probably for me, this one, to be fair. Hey, Roger. Have people who have seen the lady had any input into the look of her character in the film? I haven't seen the lady, but I have spoken to the 6 people who have seen the lady. And I've got a pretty vivid imagination of what I think she looks like, and it's kind of like on that book cover that you can see behind you. That's what I think she looks like from their descriptions. So I suppose, yes, there will be a bit of input from that, and a lot of it will probably come through me, through those people, I would have thought. Unless you guys ever wanted to speak to them, I'm sure my mates would be open to speaking with your friends and family, or random man David who lived across the road who reached out and he saw the lady. I'm sure he'll speak to you as well. So
I think that could be really interesting, is to talk to people as far as we can who've had experiences in the house, whether it's seeing the lady or it's something else, and to ask them their opinion, and particularly things like a visual reference for the lady herself would be fascinating. And we'll be paying very close attention to those kind of details.
That's a good one. Do you think the actual spirit of the lady is aware she's having a movie made about her? Imagine being a ghost and learning how famous you are beyond the grave. It's a very good shout. I have no idea, unless I get told something different at some stage in the house. She's not behind me, is she? What else have we got here? Let's have a look. People have that one. That's a decent question. Another one from my buddy Stuart. Obviously, it's very early days, but is the plan for this to be a one-off film, or is there a plan for the film to be made into a sequel eventually?
I think there's always that hope that a film does well enough that there's an appetite for a sequel. So that is very much an open question. We'll just have to see how it goes. We'll be focusing mostly, if not exclusively, on the first book for this film, to try and keep an open option on the second book for another film. So that's very much the plan, to leave it that way, to open it up for a sequel. Sometimes you find, though, that these films can be a slow burner in the mainstream, and that people love it, but you actually need to let it rest for a while before you then resurrect a sequel. Otherwise, people start to think, they've just done a money grab and they've thrown a new film out there, and you've not had time to really process what was good about that and how can we
think about Blair Witch.
Exactly.
It is the case. It happens a lot, and actually, if you look at the successful sequels, they do tend to have a reasonable gap between them. But also the complex thing of doing all the world sales. So, this film could hopefully be sold to lots of territories around the world, really get, word out about this. And that all takes time. And then you've got, a greater fan base who then will anticipate the sequel. So it's probably a good idea not to rush those things through too fast. But also you want to make sure you've really got the story nailed down, and, you don't run in too fast.
You don't want to repeat yourself in a second film and just trot out the same kinds of scares or story. You have to find a really good angle to. You have to be able to justify the second film, if you know what I mean. It's not just here's another episode in the life of this character. It's it's different if it's a series maybe on TV, but with films that go in the cinema and they have that cinematic feel to them, you have to really have something original that's going on.
I think let that side as well. Let the community, people, did it resonate? Did it hit? Did people love it? Are people hungry for more? And if you're getting that feeling that that's happening, then that's really that gives you the energy, certainly as a filmmaker, to go on and make another film. It happened with us with an indie film that we did called Black Daruma, where the fans loved it so much we thought, well, we'll then do Red Daruma. We'll do the next movie, and we didn't plan that. It was just because it resonated with the fan base. So you want to pay attention to that as well. But of course, I think a lot of people probably would would love the idea of more of this. We can tell there's so much.
Exactly. I think that the thing is, you're mentioning this, and it resonates with me as well, because everyone's asking, bring a book 3 out, bring a book 3 out. Well, I can only write about the events that have happened, and I don't have enough content to write about that would be. I mean, I can talk about footsteps and doors banging and all that sort of stuff, but it's boring if you write about that in every chapter. And I won't write about anything unless it's happened. So it's all got to be stuff that's true to me, true to the house, true to the story of everything. So yeah, there may be a book 3 one day, and I've probably got at least 15, 16 chapters worth of stuff that I could write about now if I wanted to, but that's not enough for a book. But I'll keep noting down and writing down when things happen. This is actually the director of our podcast, Beyond the Bay Window, asking a question. He's not here today. He's at home. He's got a little one to tend to. So when adapting the book for the screen, how do you decide what to stay faithful to from the original story and what to change or leave out to make the film work?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, partly it's instinct that, when you're reading the book and you're going through all the different events, sometimes you'll find that certain events are a bit repetitive of one another. And what you don't want to do in a film is have things that happen that don't, what you call, raise the stakes in a film. You have to keep raising the stakes every time there's a new scare or a new threat. It needs to be slightly more intense, more serious. There's more at stake. There's more to lose. And so we'll be looking at that and thinking, well, this group of things that happen, they're all quite similar. So let's pick 1 or 2 and do those ones. But then we need to move on to the more serious ones, where actually what happened after that elevated the action and the intensity of the narrative really increases. So that's one factor.
And I think what you're trying to do is the old phrase in Hollywood is show it, don't tell it. But you're trying to look at what's the stuff that visually conveys what's happening, and what's the stuff that would be like just telling people what's happening. And you want to try and remove that and get those story events in order. So it's really progressing that narrative. You're also trying to find the conflict in the story. So it's like, well, why don't you move out the house? That's a question many people are throwing at you. Why don't you move out the house? So it's going into, well, what's the reason not to move out the house? What might that be? And what's the conflict with, Grace or anybody else in the house about why you don't move out the house? And that's interesting because the heart of drama is conflict. So it's trying to find the essence of these things and basically put it into a roller coaster that keeps people on the edge of their seat. And of course you can overshoot, that's fine. And then you work out the film in the edit. But as far as possible, you just do that detailed work to begin with and do some thorough development. Often with what we'll do is we'll come up with loads of different scenes, get the index cards out, and you just start with everything, get everything on the table, get all the clay on the table, and then remove the clay. And then what's left is then what's going to make it into the screenplay. And it's a great fun process,
Okay, love that. And good question. Is there going to be a lot of jump scares? You can't tell anyone if there's going to be a lot of jump scares because then you won't jump.
What I'll say is the film will have exactly the right number of jump scares.
Not too cheap jump scares.
Not too many, not too few. Seriously, though, one of the things that I think really we loved about the book and the way where you told the story, Liam, is that a lot of the scares, they're quite different. So some are more like jump scares, the classic thing where someone appears, the lady appears, or there's a bang, and there's a really physical reaction to things. But then there's others that are more psychological and subtle, like the coins and the knives in the floor. Yeah. It's just so creepy. And it makes you think. It gets the audience thinking about what does that mean? Who's done that? And you can obviously see that's going to make characters in the movie really start to question themselves, argue with each other, fall out. So there's got to be a balance of certain types of scares. Some will definitely be jump scares, but others might be the sort of thing there's no jump, but it just creates tension and difficulty.
And you'll often see, with the best filmmakers, there'll be something you think that's the scare, and then you go, oh, it's okay now, and then it comes. So you throw people off, and you hopefully stay one step ahead of the viewer so that they don't anticipate it coming. And that's difficult to do, especially if people are like, horror addicts, because they can often feel when it's coming. So our job is hopefully to make sure there are going to be some scares in the film that's really going to hit people without, they can't see it coming, even if they know the book really well.
Okay, I like that. And we're talking about jump scares. I'm going to give you guys a break from answering questions for a second. So we've been on here for about 50 minutes and you've had 1,000,001 questions fired at you. I said I was going to share the trailer for the next episode of Beyond the Bay Window, which is with Doug. I will quickly share this with you. It's about 2 minutes long, so bear with us. And when we come back, please type all your questions in as you've got them now. I'll have a read through, see if we can find any more on there. And we will answer all your questions that you've got. So here's the trailer for episode 5 of Beyond the Bay Window.
There was just a shadow of a woman. Like, it looked, I describe it as like my nan, or the queen type, same like perm type hair.
Okay.
Did I just see something, or am I just going crazy? I thought it couldn't have been a person.
Yeah.
But then what could it have been?
And then you're now living in this house in the next room to where that bathroom is.
Yeah.
But he's like, I've got to get out. I've got to get out of the house. Got to get out of the house. What do you believe? What do you believe about this house, number 333? Is it haunted? What are your thoughts behind stuff?
I think there's something here. It's definitely something. I'm intrigued to see what happens or what will happen. I really think there's something that's, I won't say evil or anything like that. I just think it's weird. I'm intrigued. I'm right intrigued in this house. I love it.
Totally different from downstairs. Totally different.
Okay.
Honest.
What sort of feeling?
I feel breathless.
Okay.
The last time when we first come up here, and I'm not lying to you now, I didn't feel right.
Okay.
I felt, like shortness of breath.
As she got to the top of the stairs, she says, I don't feel right.
What did you think from 2 film directors?
Fabulous.
That's great. I can't wait to watch it.
I was still working on that last night, thinking, I've got to get this done, I've got to get it done. And I know Mark's been working really hard all weekend getting the actual episode edited and done. We've had some mega issues with the Crook file, which you guys will know more than I do about. But fair play to him, he got it done and we managed to get it out there ready for tonight, which is good.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking through some more questions on here. This one's from Barry, who's actually sat right in front of me. Hey, Lynn, by the way. I've got to have an Alfred Hitchcock role in this film. Even just a walking down the street with a newspaper and giving a quick glance and walking off. That's it. That's all I want.
Yeah. I'm sure we can arrange that.
We'll find a way.
I love that. What about this one? Just a thought. How about making it into a box set series for Netflix? Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, I think there's, with these things, there's always potential for series. But I think one of the ways to explore that might be to make the film first and then see if there's interest. It's not a trivial thing to come up with a series and then get access to pitch to the likes of Netflix, because they would be wanting to see, well, what is the potential on screen and all of that kind of thing, who's behind it. So it feels right to pursue the feature film route to begin with, and then just see how Liam feels about it as well afterwards, and whether actually, the thing is with Netflix, what can happen is it goes out on Netflix, people binge it, and within a few weeks it's gone, and that's it basically for 10, 20 years. Netflix own it, it's buried, it'll never see the light of day again anywhere else, and that happens to a lot of things. Whereas the advantage with a film is, you know, it has a life in the cinema, it goes on streaming platforms, it moves around, it goes on Blu-ray, you can do limited edition box sets. You're more in control to be able to do more interesting things with it, do screenings of the film and all that kind of thing. So there are pros and cons to that. Yeah.
I mean, I think that interestingly, like one of the things that like would work if it was a TV drama would be more the way that this came about with your story, raising all the money for your mum and how this came about. The horror movie itself, I think, works well for the, you know, the cinema and the streaming platforms. But I think there's a kind of human drama here. And it was another producer who we're talking to, like a mentor of ours, said, I think there's an opportunity for that as well. Because it's a great story in itself. Just, you know, all that went on and what you did.
Blown up, hasn't it? From
it's fabulous. And I talk to people about it all the time, and I tell people about it, and a lot of people have heard about it, and they think that's incredible what you've done, and the fact these books are selling, and there's a sellout theatre show, and all the rest of it, and you're really getting it out there and doing the podcast, and you're not hijacked by this kind of. A lot of creative people have a lot of fear, and they want to do stuff, but they think I can't do it, and they sabotage themselves. But you don't do that. You just get off and do it. And
mate, to be fair, I was mega nervous about tonight. I really was really nervous before he came on air tonight, doing a live show. Anything can go wrong. But what have we got here? I suppose I can answer this one. So Ghosts on Trent, you will have seen at the end of the trailer then for the next episode of Beyond the Bay Window. They did a 24-hour investigation here. So part of book 2 was them. So I suppose if there ever was a sequel based on book 2, you might be seeing Mark and Paul or somebody who looks very much like Mark and Paul from Stoke in that. So
that's a significant part of the book. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there when you really start to reveal somewhat what's going on in the house. So I definitely wouldn't rule that out. Yeah,
definitely. Will they be English actors? Got to be Yorkshire, haven't they?
Yeah,
or have good accents.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the advantages of us doing it as opposed to, you know, an American company would be that we understand the nuances of what it means to be British from certain regions and so on. And we really, really want to stay faithful to that because it's so much part of the identity of the film. It wouldn't be right to be bringing up, you know, all London actors and putting on fake Yorkshire accents. You know, that's not something we would hope to do. You know, we'd be looking first and foremost to people who are from the area and have a kind of intuitive sense of what it means to be from Yorkshire, and ideally even from Sheffield, although it is a smaller pool in Sheffield to draw from, of course. So. Yeah, it's very important to us that we remain faithful to that because it's so much part of the telling.
Good. Yeah, I think you want to be careful that I wouldn't rule out. I mean, you might find there's a really good actor from overseas somewhere that could come and play a great part, and that might be the name that you need. But in general, it would be actors who understand the world, you know, where this film's set, and to get those colloquial elements. I love the stuff with you and your brother saying, "Oh, I'm goosing up."
Yeah.
You know,
and podcast,
you know, you don't want your kind of overtrained, you know, drama school actors from London who come and they don't do it justice to, you know, to the world in which this film's set. So it's a delicate balance. Yeah.
Fair play. I think this one's for me. There's a few questions from the beginning for me, but I wanted to ask you, like, guys, loads of questions. So I'm intrigued. Lucy, will you be bringing the play to Wales? Theatre. I'm not going to try and pronounce that, is a fab one. We would love to. The only issue is we've got a cast of 20 and it's just not financially viable. So we are the furthest south we're going is Nottingham. There are tickets still available for that. It's on Halloween. We've got a theatre on Halloween. Come and see it. Get tickets to the theatre on Halloween. Come and see it. We'd love to see you there. That's that a one. What else have we got on here? Let's have a look. Is the hidden camera going to be a problem when oh, that's a good question. Is the hidden camera going to be a problem when people outside the house see the lady in the window? I suppose you can use phone cameras and things, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's broader than hidden cameras. You know, obviously we might be looking at using things like fixed cameras, CCTV, and things you put in the house, but Really what we're talking about is mixing between, video cameras, and a lot of it depends on what year the film is set and what time period, because if it's not authentic to the film to have camera phones, then we won't be doing that. We'll be using video cameras, shooting on mini DV tapes and that kind of thing. But if we are using, setting it in a period that's later when phone cameras are available, then people might be using phones and that kind of thing. So it depends on the screenplay. But very much, in our filmmaking, you find all sorts of motivations for why somebody's rolling a camera and walking around. So we won't just be limited to hidden cameras, so to speak.
It's one of the key questions you have to answer with what you might call a found footage movie is why the protagonist in the film is filming. And there's that great line in Blair Witch, where it's like, Heather, you're not going to, why are you still filming, Heather? And she's like, this is all I've got, because she's so terrified. She has to keep filming. So this is the important thing. So I think that, with you maybe having some kind of video diary of what's happening in the house, but other people maybe start to use that camera as well, because there's other people live in the house who are interested in documenting what's going on as well, then gives you a justification for why you're seeing it through a video camera and why you've got that authentic footage within the film. But then you also combine that with maybe there are some other cameras that are set up in the house, some security cameras and various other things. That could be part of it, and that's the fun build of the world of the film. Okay,
that's cool. Linda, thanks for this one. Hi, Liam. Why do you think you haven't seen The Lady? Thank you, Linda from Liverpool. I genuinely don't know. I don't know. I've not seen her. We've gone over this theory a few times. Is it because the lady of the house doesn't want to scare me and likes me? Or is it that she dislikes me, that she doesn't show herself to me? I do not know. I would love to see her. I've seen and heard things in this house that I can't explain. Haven't seen the lady, but 6 other people have. Don't know the answer to it. My brother made a very good point on the last podcast. If you haven't seen that, watch it, because he, for the first time out of everybody that I've spoke to about this, said something along the lines of, she's never been seen when there's been 2 people. 2 people have never seen her at the same time, sorry. Even when there's been multiple people there, when there's been 6 people in the room, 2 people have never seen her at the same time. It's always just been one person, which is weird. And I've never thought about it that way, but that is very true. What else we got on here? I'm just going to rattle through these questions for you. Hi, everyone. So exciting. You're doing great. That's not even a question. I don't know why I've started that one, but thank you ever so much. I really appreciate it. Roger, regarding the Poltergeist activity, is it better to try to do it via practical effects as much as possible?
Yeah, I mean, it's much more fun to try and do it via practical effects. When you get specialist guys, come in, SFX teams, and you explain to them what you're looking for, they read the script, and they just devise the most incredible ways of creating an effect. That's great. And it could actually work out quite a lot cheaper to do it that way rather than to do visual effects later in post-production. And I think people can tell, even as good as visual effects are now, if they're not done incredibly well or very subtly, you kind of tell that the footage has been tampered with. And we feel like this story, really, part of it's really about being very authentic, and it needs to be in camera, it needs to be caught for real. So that's very much the approach we'll be taking. At the same time, when we've made films in the past, we've done that. And then you get to the edit later on, you think, do you know what? We got 90% of the way with that effect we went for, but just a little bit of visual effects on top to enhance something is going to make it all the more effective. And that's where it comes in to its own, because you can just augment an effect a little bit more. So it's a fine balance, but we're fans of practical.
You can get the invisible string if you can.
Yeah. That's what they did with Paranormal Activity, isn't it? They spent 16 grand making a film and then put special effects onto the back of it and made 190 million pound or whatever they did out of it. So clever stuff. Okay.
A lot of it is in the sound as well. It's the sound is such a key part of creating that feeling, and obviously that's a challenge with a found footage movie, because you don't have your classical kind of musical score running over the whole thing. But it's like, if you've got that creak in a door at a certain moment, or the footsteps, and it's building that those textures within the film that are a big part of it, as well as those effects when they're needed. But I think we'd probably be fairly sparing with that kind of thing, because too much can diminish the horror if you do too much. So, you see a little bit of the lady, a little bit of the shadow.
It's like Jaws, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And if you were to see her for too long, you diminish the fear. So it's a game of psychology,
Yeah. Okay. Fiona's just asked a question. I was wondering if the little boy, I think my little boy, has experienced anything in the house, and will it be in book 3? There might be a book 3 one day. I don't know yet. Certainly not at the minute, because I'm really, really busy and I don't have enough content for it, as I said earlier on, as yet. But things do still happen. Has he experienced anything? If you haven't seen the video with the crib yet, go and check it out on my Facebook channel, because that is creepy. And that was his first night in his crib. Will he remember it? No, because I don't even think he was 1 at the time. He was about 10, 11 months old at the time. So there's been a couple of things that have happened with him, yes. But I don't want to talk about them yet, because I'm saving them for a podcast episode at some stage. So I will talk about them on a podcast at some stage for you. Another question from Jamie. Let's have a look at this one. When comparing your other projects, does it feel different with a true story?
Yeah, I think there's something very exciting about working with something that's a true story or based on a true story, because there's still an outstanding question or an outstanding line of inquiry about it, and a fan base who are interested in that question and getting to the bottom of it. And so in a weird way, it feels like you're working with material that's alive, that you don't quite know where it's going to go, and that there's, there'll be thoughts flying around and new things that happen during the process that are feeding in. And of course, you're working with somebody else's imagination, or not imagination in this case, more creativity of Liam putting it down on the page, how to order those events, how to write about them. So we're 2 minds, but with Liam we've got 3 minds here. So it's only going to add to the power behind the movie. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the process rather than having to stare at a blank page and come up with a story as we've done in the past with our own projects.
Which, to be honest, I think with the last film that we made, it was such a headache to finally get it together, because everything's imagined. I know that when I started reading the book and I passed it on to Toby to read it, he was just like, "This is a breath of fresh air," because the film's already kind of here, and it honestly felt like just kind of free running or something, But the other thing that comes with this is a new thing as well, is to really be respectful to William, William, your vision and the characters in the film and what really happened, so we don't get too carried away to create something that wasn't entirely what really went on. So there's a delicate process as well. But yeah, it's really great to take on something that's based on a true story. Good.
Well, Mark, the director of the podcast, Mark, who gets married at the end of this month. So I'm the best man for that as well. So, but he wants John Cena to play him. Is that going to be possible?
Yeah, if he's available.
If you can see him, that is. So what have we got here? Have you any plans for any further paranormal groups to visit your house? Yes, I mentioned earlier, Beardo Gets Scared and Justin, the Paranormal Monkey podcast, are coming here at some stage later in the year. We haven't got a date in the diary, so I don't know if those guys are still on having a listen to this, but send me some dates. We need to have a look at this. I know we want to do it a bit more around spooky season, so summer's nearly gone now. Send us some dates through and we'll get that sorted. And obviously we'll get that out on YouTube once it's been done as well, so you guys can all see it. Let's have a look what this one is. Linda, how Lincoln's film is if they hope to see the right, okay. Hi Liam, can you ask the filmmakers if they hope to see the lady if visiting your home? Would you want to see her?
Oh dear, I don't know about that. I mean, maybe it will help us make the film, but I don't know if we'll be in a good shape. So yeah, but I think I'm going to say I hope not. I hope I just feel a hint of her presence. That's enough.
Fair play. I like that. Okay. I like this question. What are your favorite go on, guys? What are your favorite ghost films? Or horror films?
I think for me, The Sixth Sense, really comes to mind. I really love The Sixth Sense, if you call that a ghost film. Just a brilliant twist in that movie. I really didn't see it coming, and it's one of those films you would think I've got to go back to the cinema and watch that again and see if I can spot how that unfolded. So that was really frightening as well. Yeah,
I think The Others is a really great ghost film because it's such a fantastic twist. But I think Candyman, if we could say Candyman's a ghost film, that's an incredible movie that I saw when I was maybe 9 years old, and it stuck with me all these years. And that's a brilliant film that deals with extreme racism and the paranormal and skepticism. Brilliant movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mine's, do you know, as a horror film goes, it's probably the original Psycho.
Right.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because of what you've just said about you never see the blade entering the skin, all that sort of stuff. It gives you the heebie-jeebies, the character Norman Bates, that sort of thing. It's very real and scary.
Yeah, brilliant.
It's a horror film. That's probably up there for one of mine. What's this one? Let's have a look. Will you ever convert the attic to bedrooms, etc.? Maybe one day I might do. At the minute, it's just full of all sorts of rubbish up there, probably like everybody else's attic. It's boarded out and just got loads of rubbish up there and boxes and things like that. So maybe one day, yes, I might do. Just seeing if there's any more questions in here now. I can't see any. Oh, there's one here. No, I can't see any more questions in there. Does anyone have any more questions? If you have, say them now or forever hold your breath, whatever the saying is. But I think from my side of things, while we're waiting for anything to come in there, is I'm mega excited for this. I'm mega excited to work with you guys. We've been discussing this for a long time, and it's nice to see that literally the contract is signed. It's done, isn't it? And it's time to start doing some work and working on that. And I just think it'd be amazing to see what you guys come up with, what creatives you come up with, and taking it from there. Is there anything you guys want to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just really glad we're taking this on at this point in our careers when we've done a few movies, and this isn't our first film, because I think it feels good to be bringing, some more knowledge, hopefully, to this, but also learning from some of the mistakes. With our first film, Playhouse, was a lot of fun. It was a beautiful film, but people said it wasn't maybe scary enough. It had a lot of atmosphere in it. So we're determined to really make the horror movie, that is gonna hopefully get people really freaked out, and we're very excited to hopefully this will play on the big screen. So it's a fantastic opportunity. It feels like the right time for it, and it's just fantastic. This is all going on down the road. So it feels like there's a sort of sense of I don't know, serendipity going on. And
we're online with each other now, but you are literally about 5-10 minutes drive away from me, aren't you? In your office there. So
yeah.
Somebody's. I'll bring this up on the screen in a second. Actually, will Johnny Depp be playing Liam? We said we need a young actor. He's playing Scrooge at the minute, isn't he? As much as I do like Johnny Depp, fantastic actor, he is. Yeah, he's playing Scrooge at the minute, I think. We've kind of answered this one earlier. Who are you going to cast as actors, well known or lesser known? I suppose a lot of this will come down to budget and things as well, won't it?
Yeah, and like many films, it'll probably be a mix. There'll be better known actors or very well known actors, but there'll be people who are up and coming who haven't been seen much before. But at the very least, they'll be very good actors. We're absolutely sure about that. We'll be making sure we're not going to be casting amateurs unless there's a very specific reason for that, and we believe in why they're in the film.
We always try and work with local actors as far as we can as well. We don't want to bring everybody up from London and things as far as possible. So we give everyone a look in, and we may do auditions, and it's a type of acting because found footage movies. You have to be very authentic. It's almost like non-acting. It's kind of being yourself. It's strange. So if you're too highly trained, say if you're a theatre actor, maybe you wouldn't work as well because that's a different type of performance. It has to be quite a large performance because it's in a theatre. So it's really, you're looking for the certain type of actors who can, can really play it internally, and they feel like real people you're watching. And I think that's what happened with Paranormal Activity. I mean, that couple is so convincing in the movie, and I think they were given a lot of time just to hang out and improvise. So there's various techniques you will probably end up using to draw out the performances.
This one's actually interesting for you. I've just seen this question from Jamie, who's thrown a few questions up on here. But this, have you seen the film Presence? I haven't seen the film Presence. I don't know if you guys have.
I think that's the Steven Soderbergh one, I think, isn't it? Where it's all from the perspective of the entity.
Through the eyes of the lady would be.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but
that's what like your film, the Drummer, isn't it? And,
the two films, Black Daruma and Red Daruma.
Yeah,
black people can watch on Amazon Prime if they're inclined. That's all filmed from the point of view of an entity that somebody interacts with. So we've played around with that. It's called POV filmmaking, so it's like a subgenre of found footage almost. That's a really cool technique.
Cool, like it.
Sounds interesting. I'd like to watch that, whatever that was.
Yeah, I might have a look for that as well. Is it put in the comments? Is it on anything? Can we find it on anything, Amazon or anything? That's a good question. From Donna. Hello, Donna. Would you ever run it as a B&B? So Donna's from Northern Ireland. She invited me to go to the Golden Fleece in York. For those of you who don't know the Golden Fleece, it's quite a haunted building in York, and they've booked it for the weekend later in the year. And I'm going on one of the nights to meet them all, which should be good fun. Would I ever run my place as a B&B? You never know, dear. I'll never sell it. I've always said I'll never sell this house. I bought it when I was 19. It doesn't owe me a lot of money, to be fair, and you'll never find another house like it. So I would never, ever sell the house. Would I run it as an Airbnb? Yeah, maybe at some point. Maybe. You never know. Never know. And another one from Donna. She's late to the party, which is disgraceful. The amount of advertising. I said 8 o'clock tonight's a disgrace, isn't it? When is the film being released? We mentioned this earlier. You guys said you'd like to get it out in the next 12, 18 months. It depends on funding. It depends on hell of a lot of things. Casting, funding, how well the hidden camera films do next year, the Blair Witch 2, and is it Paranormal Activity 7? 7, is it?
lose track.
I think it's 7. Yeah. I've not seen them since 2, I think, but and I quite enjoy them. I've just not watched them. Let me see. Oh, there's lots more comments just come through now, so bear with me 1 second. I will have a look through those. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves for a second. Is it being filmed on location? We've mentioned that. There could potentially be some bits that you film on location here.
Yeah.
For the later parts of the book.
The exterior of the house, we could do some stuff there for sure. It depends. We'll need to scope everything, all the options out, really. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah,
I can see it.
I don't think so. Who else have we got? I'm just seeing if there's any more questions in here. If you have got any questions, just put a queue in front of them, and I'm going to let these guys go in the next 10 minutes if we've not got any more questions, because they've been very kind with their time this evening, giving us an hour and 20 minutes so far. So thank you guys for coming on and chatting with the guys. I was excited to ask questions as everybody else, to be fair. So like a kid at Christmas when we got the contract signed and everything. So it's good. That's quite interesting. If anyone hasn't seen this, I put a post on Facebook the other day. Somebody messaged about our investigation podcast piece on Beyond the Bay Window Investigations, which is over on YouTube. There was something, I think it was 51 minutes and 40 seconds or something like that. there is a voice, and it sounds like a lady's voice. And there was just me, Barry, and Mark in the room, all of which have got quite deep voices. And there's a voice that seems to say, hey, or hi. We didn't catch it in the edit. How we've done the investigation side of things. If you watch a lot of investigation, you'll see loads of replays and watching over the same bit. We basically said, investigate with us. And it wasn't through laziness of editing, before you say it. It was, we just wanted to put it out there, let you guys watch it at the same time as us and see if anybody picks up on anything, voices, anything moving, anything like that. And yeah, we've had a few things sent through, but that to me was the most interesting one because it's a lady's voice, 51 minutes, I think it's 40 seconds in, that says, hey, that's what I hear anyway. But it wasn't any of us three, I promise you that. I can vouch that there wasn't a lady in the room at the time. We were in the most haunted room there, room 6. Very strange. So yeah, check that out if you haven't already. Do we have anything else? There's somebody filming in the Golden Fleece this week. Filming in the Golden Fleece this week. Hopefully the footage will make it into the newspapers. I think that is about all the questions from everybody. I think from me, I want to say a massive, massive thank you to Fionn and Toby, the Watts brothers of Fun or Film. Thank you for joining us, everybody who's taken time out of their evening on a Monday night. Hopefully this has got rid of your Monday blues. Hearing the news that The Lady in the Bay Window is going to be a feature film, a hidden camera feature film at that. So we're over the moon with it. So yes, thank you ever so much, guys. And I will catch up with you soon. If you have got any more questions or if you've enjoyed this episode, please put some comments in the comment box. Ask away with your questions. Follow us on social media. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you ever so much. And please watch the Beyond the Bay Window next Sunday. It's my birthday. Get it watched. Episode 5. Cheers.
Thank you.